The gate opened slowly, and the daughter-in-law stood there, dressed neatly and holding herself with pride. She looked at the old beggar from head to toe, her eyes filled with judgment before he even spoke. His clothes were dirty, his body slightly bent, and his face tired from the long walk. To her, he was nothing more than an unwanted disturbance. The beggar lowered his head respectfully and greeted her in a soft voice. He explained that he was tired and hungry and asked if she could spare him a little food. His words were polite, his tone humble, and his hands shook slightly as he leaned on his stick. For a brief moment there was silence. Then her face hardened. She stepped back as if his presence offended her. She asked him why he had chosen her house and accused him of pretending to be weak so that he could beg. Her voice was loud enough to attract attention, and her words were sharp and cruel. She told him that lazy people always look for easy help instead of working, and she warned him not to return. The beggar listened quietly. He did not argue or explain himself. Instead, he stood there patiently, allowing her true nature to show. Inside his heart, he felt a deep pain, not because of the insults, but because this was the woman married to his son. The kindness he had hoped to see was nowhere to be found. A few servants nearby watched in silence. They recognized the beggar as just another poor man, yet something about his calmness made them uneasy. Some felt pity, but none dared to speak. The daughter-in-law, noticing the attention, became even more irritated. She did not want anyone to think her household welcomed beggars. With a firm gesture, she ordered the gate to be closed and told him to leave immediately. The beggar took a slow step back, his eyes lowered, his request for food unanswered. As the gate shut before him, he stood still for a moment, absorbing the weight of what had just happened. He turned away quietly and began to walk down the road, his hunger still unsatisfied. Behind him, the house returned to its calm appearance, but the truth had already been revealed. The first test had ended, and it had spoken louder than words. The beggar walked slowly away from the gate, leaning heavily on his stick. His stomach ached from hunger, and his feet were sore from the long walk, but he did not give up. He knew that the real test was not over yet. He turned back once, glancing at the house where his son lived, and gathered courage to continue. Later that afternoon, he returned to the same neighborhood, moving quietly along the walls of the house. This time he did not ask for food openly, but requested a small cup of water and a place to rest for just a little while. His voice was gentle, full of humility, and his body trembled slightly with fatigue. When the daughter-in-law saw him again, she frowned deeply, her cheeks flushed with irritation. "Why are you here again?" she demanded. "Have you no shame? Are you planning to stay and make my house your home?" Her words were sharp and impatient. She stepped forward, shaking her finger at him. "Go away at once!" she shouted, louder than before. The beggar bowed slightly but did not speak. He simply tried to explain with his eyes, pleading for just a little mercy. But the daughter-in-law's pride and fear of judgment drowned out any thought of kindness. She turned to the servants nearby and said, "See what happens when people like this come near? Do not help him. Do not let him touch anything in this house." A young servant, however, noticed the beggar's exhaustion. Quietly, he thought of offering a small cup of water, but the daughter-in-law's glare stopped him. Fear of her anger kept him frozen. The beggar, sensing the young man's hesitation, nodded gently in appreciation, but did not speak. The daughter-in-law's actions revealed her heart clearly. She valued her reputation and comfort above compassion. Her anger, her harsh words, and her refusal to help, even when the need was small and reasonable, spoke louder than anything she could say in defense. The beggar turned slowly and walked away again. Each step was heavy, yet he remained patient. He had seen enough to know the truth, but he would continue his test, for the final revelation would need more than this. The house behind him stood tall and beautiful, but inside the seeds of pride and selfishness had been laid bare. As he walked down the quiet road, the sun began to sink toward the horizon. Shadows stretched long across the ground, signaling the end of the day. The rich man in disguise knew that tomorrow would bring the next part of his test, one that might finally bring his son face to face with reality. As the sun disappeared completely and evening settled over the neighborhood, the son returned home from his day's work. He entered the compound expecting the usual calm atmosphere, but something felt different. The servants were unusually quiet, and there was a strange tension in the air, as if something unpleasant had happened. He greeted his wife warmly, but she responded with visible irritation. He immediately noticed her restless mood and asked gently if anything was wrong. At first, she brushed it aside, saying it was nothing important, but as he continued asking, she finally spoke. "There was a beggar here today," she said sharply. "Not once, but twice. He kept coming back, asking for food and water, as if this is a charity center." The son listened carefully. "And what did you do?" he asked calmly. She lifted her chin with pride. "I sent him away. People like that only disturb peaceful homes. If you help them once, they never stop coming." Her words did not sit well with him. He had grown up under his father's guidance, learning that kindness was never wasted. He remembered many times his father had given freely to strangers without expecting anything in return. Hearing his wife speak with such hardness troubled him deeply. Just then, one of the servants quietly approached and bowed his head. With hesitation, he explained that the beggar had looked very weak and hungry. He mentioned that the man had asked only for a little water before being chased away again. The servant's voice trembled as he spoke, careful not to anger his mistress. The son turned slowly to his wife. "Is that true?" he asked softly. She crossed her arms defensively. "Yes, and I would do the same again. If we start entertaining every poor person, we will have no peace." The son sighed heavily. He did not want to argue, but he could feel a growing discomfort in his heart. Compassion had always been part of his upbringing. He could not understand how someone who lived in abundance could refuse something as small as water. Trying to calm the situation, he changed the subject and mentioned that his father would soon visit. "He said he might come by tomorrow," he added casually. The daughter-in-law straightened her clothes and adjusted her tone immediately. "Oh, father is coming? We must prepare well," she said, her voice suddenly softer and respectful. The son noticed the change. It was subtle but clear. Her expression shifted from irritation to concern about appearances. This small change planted a seed of doubt in his heart, though he said nothing more. Outside the house, in the growing darkness, the old beggar sat quietly at a distance, watching the lights glow from within. He knew his son had returned. He also knew that the final moment of truth was drawing near. The pain he had felt earlier was now replaced with determination. Tomorrow, the house that had rejected him would open its doors again. But this time, what entered would not be a simple beggar asking for mercy. It would be truth itself.